right, good morning. We're still checking a few things on the internet and see how the day is going to be. But good morning once again, and good morning to you out there. Wednesday morning, midweek edition, New Day. The team is set. Anthony Jackson, Dr. Nana Majiman, and His Excellency Bright Nanamfo. That's my new title from today. You can decide to call me.
That was unfair. You didn't give Anthony a title.
Oh, Anthony.
Assembly. Let's give him assemblyman.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
For the TV3 assembly.
Assembly member for Kanda Nima electoral area. That's his title.
You want to be driving in a V8.
He wants a.
You're not ready for that.
He wants to be an MP.
Yes, he wants to be. But Bright will have, your grandfather will have to be providing fuel, and that comes to extra cost for him.
Yeah,
so take your time. He says start off with an assemblyman, get to know the people in your constituency, try and amass.
By the time I get to
become an MP or something.
Minister.
You know, now,
So you want him to start enjoying now?
No, I think he has to learn from Dr. Papa Kusindu. He's an assembly member, rose through the ranks, became an MP, and has attempted being a president for some time. Maybe he should do something like that.
But anyway, of course, you saw Johnny Hughes' wedding video out there. That's a trailer from him and his wife to us. That's a gift for you this morning. After his encounter, yes, he's gone on that lifelong journey.
Yesterday, he sent me a video around 9 o'clock. I didn't say anything. I just watched the video and sent the message back to him. And I asked, Johnny, is this what you are practicing now? Can you imagine the video he sent to me?
Okay, we don't want to know those behind the scenes conversations, but interesting enough to know. But today we'll be talking family planning because it's World Population Day today. It's being celebrated across the world, and obviously Ghana's population is on the ascendancy, and we're wondering if there's anything we can do. Is it that the education on family planning isn't reaching out enough, or the myths still exist? So we'll be talking about that to try and demystify some of these myths that overall affect human lives. I mean, women in particular.
So people should believe in family planning.
They should, right. Ultimately, we've come down many years with research and science to know that it's good. It's for the health of the women. Would you necessarily want your wife to ask you for permission to go on a family planning method?
No, I will not.
Right, because you understand it's a human right, isn't it? Bright says he wouldn't. AJ, what about you?
I think it's a good idea.
I have my own ideas
family
about
planning,
family planning.
You perform the natural.
No, I think there is something we're not doing right. So our population is bigger than the land mass we have, or the facilities that we have.
I think it will be the facilities. Concerning the land mass, we know that we have vast areas that are not even habited as of now.
So
it will be the resources.
We can break it down into a matter of us not planning well.
Right.
Okay.
So both planning the family and also planning for the resources.
Own family. If you have 2 children, you're able to cater well for them, as opposed to having lots of children. But if you do have the means to take care of, say, 8 children, you can have them.
Exactly. You know. But at the end, what we're really talking about or focusing on is the woman's health. It's not that you can have, say, 10 children even if you wanted to, but also the health, because the woman should be able to dictate when, how, that's the most important thing. Unlike when now we're making it almost compulsory. The woman almost doesn't have a say when it comes to how many children she wants to have.
Okay, but I thought we said Western medicine is improved a lot.
It has.
So if in the past, without Western medicine, our grandfathers were able to have 15, 20. With improved medicine, our men should be able to have as many as they want.
Right.
And still be healthy.
Yeah. But it's the timing. And the food we eat now is not what our mothers and our fathers used to eat. The things we do now, the stress we take on ourselves is not what they used to have in the past. So things have changed along the lines as well. And so we have to consider all that.
Environment to even consider. One can be always taking time off for maternity leave.
Exactly.
Sometimes she also
but
wants
Bright
to
will soon be joining in for paternity leave. That's why they're fighting for paternity leave. So when you get that, maybe you can have the 20 children you so
hold on. I want to say a few things, but I hold on.
It's good you're holding on anyway.
Well, the news is up next right after this. Good morning and welcome to the morning news on Newday. My name is Anthony Jackson. Let's look at the headlines for the morning. Now, authorities at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have suspended the referral of emergency cases to the hospital's surgical and emergency unit for lack of space to accommodate patients. Paramount Chief of the Afife traditional area has lauded government's handling of the economy since assuming office. The municipal chief executive of Ewutu-Senya East, Michael Esman Mensah, has debunked claims the Kaswa District Court Magistrate Felicia Gadeji uses a chamber pot in her office due to the absence of washrooms at the court. Let's start off from the health sector, where authorities of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have suspended the referral of emergency cases to the hospital's surgical and emergency unit for lack of space to accommodate patients. The decision, according to the hospital, follows a congestion at the unit, which has compelled the hospital to attend to patients in bizarre ways. Here's a report by Sarah Paku.
The scene at the surgical and emergency unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is that of an eyesore. The facility is a 36-bed capacity structure, but currently has in excess of 60 patients. Patients are scattered on the corridors of the unit with their IV fluids stuck in them. Doctors and nurses were struggling with movement around to deliver care to patients. Due to limited space at the unit, family members of the patients are made to sleep outside the unit. The situation is, however, not same at other units of the hospital, as the news team gathered some of the patients who are stable have been moved to other wards. Hajia Janet laments how she had to endure watching her sick daughter attended to in a chair.
It's very appalling. If you have not brought a patient here and you just listen to radio and television, you might think all is well. It's not well. Until my daughter came here, he had a sudden cardiac attack all the way in an ambulance from Kaswa to this place. Luckily, they attended to her. But since we came, he has never had a bed. Somebody with cardiac-related problem, where you saw me is where he has been sitting.
For Mary Abrakwa, she had to rush across the streets of the hospital to buy plastic chairs to enable her sick husband, who had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital to be attended to.
I bought these 2 chairs. I'll carry them along when my husband is discharged.
One Kobe Blay posted pictures of patients being attended to in plastic chairs and also lying on the floor of the unit on social media. According to hospital authorities, the situation compelled them to ask their sister hospitals to hold on with referrals to the facility for now. According to the public relations officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Mustafa Salifu, the situation is currently under control.
The number had reduced. Those who were sitting outside will move into the SME itself. But we are still doing. Another measure we took was to call the other hospital that they should hold on with the referrals.
He also revealed that there are plans to expand the facility to 70-bed capacity by the end of this month.
The Deputy Minister of Health also came here to find out what was happening, and then the Chief Executive also had a meeting with the Ministry. So we are planning together. They are giving us the necessary support to open the bigger emergency that is here by the 20th of July. That place we open it to at least double the capacity that we have now.
So until government works on the institutional leakages of the country's health system, this situation will continue to persist.
Still on the health sector, authorities at the Sutreso Government Hospital in Kumasi have denied allegations of negligence leading to the death of a pregnant woman and her unborn baby. They have also described as false the 500 cedis was demanded as doctors' motivation before attending to patients at the facility. Here's a report by Benjamin Adu.
The Sutreso Government Hospital in Kumasi has been in the media spotlight for allegedly refusing a 30-year-old pregnant woman entry into the labor ward on Wednesday, July 4. The hospital is alleged to have demanded a 500 cedi doctor motivation fee before medical attention, which the patient could not immediately demand. Later died at a theatre with her unborn baby. Medical superintendent at the hospital, Dr. Ejakupoku, confirmed the death of the woman but ruled out negligence and demand for any motivation fee. He explained the woman in labor died whilst in queue to be attended to because of insufficient theatre beds.
Sometimes some of the things do happen. The same healthcare providers go through. Sometimes these are some of the things beyond our control. But I'm assuring all of you that management will not sit on concern, will go into this issue.
The Centresu Government Hospital has only one theatre bed for 2 doctors and 2 nurses. Patients often queue for space at the facility, which is second to the Komfo Anochi Teaching Hospital in patient turnout. Dr. Ejakupoku appealed to government and stakeholders to help address challenges facing the hospital.
Paramount Chief of Afife Traditional Area Togbi Adrakpanya the Sixth has lauded government's handling of the economy since assuming office. He was speaking during the president's interaction with chiefs of Anglo, Keta, Ketu North and South, Akachi North and South, and North Tong to end day 1 of the president tour of the Volta region.
According to Paramount Chief of the People Traditional Area, Togbi Adrakpanya the Sixth, the Akufo-Addo government inherited an economy burdened with huge debts, high fiscal deficit, and a slow rate of growth. He told the gathering at Tajevu in the Ketu North constituency they were surprised the president was able to implement the free SHS policy, restore the nursing and teacher trainee allowances, and the program for planting for food and jobs, all within his first year of office.
We have been keenly and patiently monitoring your development focus and agenda for the nation and wish to state that you have done excellently well beyond our imagination considering the state of the economy you inherited. We will be most grateful if this institution could be upgraded into a fully fledged agricultural university to train young people to provide the needed human resources in the agriculture and food processing sectors to meet the aspiration of your policy on planting for food and jobs.
Togbi Adrakpanya the Sixth also expressed heartfelt appreciation of the people of the People Traditional Area to the president for reinstating the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sport, Pius Enam Hajide. President Akufo-Addo urged the people to support the initiative to create new regions to enhance development.
This region that may well be created in the Otu region is not being created as a matter of spite, of dislike, hostility towards the people in the south. On the contrary, I am hoping that the good relations that exist today between all the people of the Volta region, that good relationship will survive and become stronger so that all parts of the Volta region will be together.
President Akufo-Addo will end the tour of the Volta region on Wednesday, July 11, 2018.
Now, the Municipal Chief Executive for Owutu Senya East, Michael Isuman Mensah, has debunked claims the Kaswa District Court Magistrate Felicia Gadeji uses a chamber port in her office due to absence of washrooms at the court. In an interview with TV3, the MCE indicated the magistrate has an exclusive washroom in the facility.
Following a tour of the Kaswa Court in the Central Region by the Chief Justice, reports revealed that the court magistrate Felicia Gandeji showed her a chamber port she uses due to the absence of washrooms at the facility, but this has been rubbished by the MCE Michael Isuman Mensah. According to him, the Owutu Senya East Municipal Assembly relocated to its current office in May 2017 due to congestion at its former office. The arrangement was to save money and also have a more comfortable place of operation. He explained The new assembly complex, which houses the district court, has designated washrooms for staff and an exclusive one for the magistrate. Hence, he finds it surprising to understand why the magistrate, Felicia Gandiji, would abandon the washroom to use a chamber pot.
We least expected at such a moment where a judge, a female judge, will pull out chamber pot in front of the number 4th most powerful person of our land.
Next month, the fisherfolk contend the decision was ill-conceived and only meant to starve them rather than address the bigger problem. Peter Kwawadato has been following developments in the sector and has come through with the following reports.
Closed fishing season was first announced in 2016 by the former President John Dramani Mahama. The intervention restricted only fishing trawlers from going for fishing expeditions at sea. The measure, which is viewed as a major step in achieving sustainable fishing, is also intended to help replenish the depleting fish stock. However, implementation period was heavily criticized by researchers. They maintained the best time to observe closed fishing season is in August, which is the major spawning period. The present administration not only accepted the scientific research, but also expanded the intervention.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still here on TV3 New Day. It's time for us to do the newspaper headlines now. We'll start off with the Independent. It says, "We don't intend to spite, reject Southland Volta through creation of OT region." That's coming from the president. Then also George Anders says Kelmi GVG contract is in the best interest of Ghana. Well, the Kelmi GVG documents have also been submitted to the Attorney General's Department. Let's move on to other newspaper headlines. Let's see what we have. On Ghanaian Times, it says, "Teaching hospital for Volta region. Cabinet has approved the bill," says the president. Also, a woman and her unborn baby die over doctor's motivation fee. An unfortunate situation there, which we'll touch on when we sit down to discuss the headlines as they have come in from various newspapers this morning. We'll touch on another newspaper headline. We have so many for this morning. We have Daily Graphic. It says, Kolebu refuses referrals. Decision affects surgical and emergency cases. That's a story on page 3 of the Daily Graphic. Also, the health minister says Mahama administration rejected important ambulances. And there are the pictures of the imported ambulances sitting there. Also, the president cast sword for the resource center in the Volta region. Then 8 have been arrested for defrauding Americans. But we'll touch on that very important story because in recent times we've had the health system being riddled with so many issues concerning ambulances and no bed syndrome. We'll see how that impacts on our health. Also, Daily Guide, Angela Merkel is coming to Ghana. Then also GMPC has denied the NDC's claims against Blame. Then also new regions are not for votes. The president has assured Voltarians. Then Major Mahama exchanged gunshots with attackers. That is the story coming out of the court dealings concerning the late Major Maxwell Mahama's issue. We'll touch on that also in further discussions. Then the Today newspaper says Suntreso Hospital is hot over the death of mother and baby. There's an insert of the health minister, Honorable Kweku Ajiman Menu. Also, fear grips farm milk staff following dismissal of workers. Then cocoa is in danger. That's coming from the Minister for Food and Agriculture. He says it is in danger because farmers are cutting the trees for rubber plantations. Well, we'll see how that will impact on our cocoa sectors. I guess the farmers are not getting their due and may be upset about that situation. Also, Daily Statement says the suit against Kelmi GVG deal fails. Then President assures Voltarians that he doesn't seek to disenfranchise them. And you can see the president well adorned and kente and exchanging pleasantries with some of the chiefs. Then also authorities probe death of pregnant woman and baby as the family threaten legal action. action. That's a story of what happened at Suntreso Government Hospital in Kumasi. Then also Gold Street Business says the Tourism Ministry revamps Tourism and Hospitality Training Institute. Then women have been urged to take majority of the positions in public relations. Then Ghana Cocoa Platform is to boost cocoa production. I guess that comes amidst the issue of farmers changing their cocoa plantations to rubber plantations. Then also financial services industry is the major target for cyber fraud. That's coming from the E-Crime Bureau. Then also the new policy to enhance airline service standards is being requested for. And then finally, new partnership to reduce bottlenecks in invoice factoring. So these are the stories on the front of Gold Street Business. The Herald also carries some interesting stories. It says 200 toll workers have been sacked. Then also the spirit of arrogance possessed Freddie Blay, calls Tobe Afedi CDD others foolish and ignoramus over his 275 second-hand buses. Well, that sounds harsh. Also, Men's Gold opens England office on Sunday, and then Akufo-Addo's ministers sleep at cabinet meetings. Gabri Otri Darkon revealed and hints of Agenda 2020. Well, interesting stories there. The Finder also says in 2017, MDA squandered close to 900 million Ghana cedis. The Finance Ministry alone was responsible for 697 million cedis. Well, the German Chancellor is to visit Ghana. Also, Afoko trial said the judge has said, I will not accept any further excuses. Then the president again reassures Voltarians that he has no interest in disenfranchising them. Then finally, Ejakun urges Parliament to ratify the ECG concession. And you know that ECG concession issue has been going back and forth. Right. But he's asking for it to be ratified so that it can take place in July 2018. Right.
Very interesting stories. The health sector is in the news today. The BNFT has a story. Over 70% of NHIS subscribers don't pay premiums.
Really?
That's from University of Ghana Business Survey, I'm sure, or Business School report. And then the Kolebu refuses referrals. That's a daily graphic. We're told that the surgical and emergency cases are affected, and Times has a teaching hospital for Volta region. So, and then the woman and born baby die over doctor's motivation fee. So the health sector this morning is
topping the headlines.
In the news. But the Kolebu issue, first to take a look at, well, I don't know, but then I begin to see the lack of coordination. Now, if you remember, just recently, the Ghana Health Service announced that no facility should turn away any emergency situation because of the issue of no bed. And then 2-3 weeks, we have this. So how do we reconcile the two? What is happening?
It will be difficult to reconcile.
Don't turn them away. But now we said we're not taking emergency cases because according to the story, the PR of Kolebu is suggesting that some emergencies are like what you people tell me here, red, blue and green or something, or yellow or something. There's a moderate emergency, and then there's the one that can be managed. Kolebu doesn't understand why every emergency is sent there when facilities are inadequate. And so this is what is good. But my worry is the seemingly lack of coordination. Don't turn patients away. We can't accept them.
Right, I can understand that, but of course it will come to PR. The person who is actually asking for patients not to be turned away is not on the ground. Because if you have a facility that is made for 60, and let's say now you're having close to 100 patients coming in, if you've been to Kolebu recently, you notice that after the no-bed syndrome, they started nursing patients in chairs and even some on the floor because doctors' hands were tied, or the healthcare system had, put them in that entrenched position where you couldn't just turn away an emergency situation for lack of bed. bed. We all an agreement where we said, okay, so far as you tell the patient and he or she agrees to sit in a chair, then you could start some emergency management, and then after, when stable, would see how best to transfer the patient. Now we've got people lying on the floors, and even where the nursing staff have to walk to attend to patients has become an issue. And I thought right from scratch, this no bed syndrome, the solution to it was not issuing a statement to say no one should turn away the emergencies, because in as much as we're eager to take care of patients, you also want the space. You want them to be in the best possible, condition. I read in the same story where a woman had to go across Korle Bu to buy a chair for her daughter to sit in to be attended to. That shouldn't be happening in this current day and age. Again, we've said so many times that Korle Bu is not the only referral center. For Accra, we've got Ridge. At least, if not anything at all, we've got 37, we've got Police Hospital. Everyone seems to think that because Korle Bu is big and it has so many doctors, and so once you go there, you would get the required help you need. But sometimes it's not every case that is a severe emergency that has to be attended in Korle Bu. So far as there's no space, I would agree with Korle Bu when it says let's hold on with the referrals. Those that have been stabilized, at least in the facilities, should be kept there in the meantime until they're able to transfer some of those in their emergency setting to the wards, because there's a turnover time. Someone on the ward will be discharged. When he's discharged, the person at the emergency who no longer is a severe emergency, let's say has now come to a moderate or a mild emergency, can then be moved to the hospital, to the main ward and attended. But if you just influx that little space, if you've been to the Korle Bu emergency, you should know how it works. It's a very small space, and I wonder how they are coping in these current days. We need to understand the health system and try and do the referrals properly, so that they also are not riddled with this complaint of having to close down their emergency. This is not the first time. It happens often. Because after some time, they are, overburdened. They can't do anything. Even their supplies, remember, their supplies are equally limited in the sense that they cater, because you have a bed capacity of, say, 60, the hospital is to provide for that 60. Anything beyond becomes an extra cost to the hospital. And so all these things are administrative processes that may not have been considered prior to this no bed syndrome. So it will take time for them to fully effect what the, Ghana Health Service is asking them to do as well.
The worry I have isn't the fact that the infrastructure at some of these facilities are not adequate. My worry is that there seems to be confusion in the health sector, because now which officials of the health service do the referrals? The health officials. So they know that this emergency is one that has to be attended to at Korle Bu. This one can be attended to at Mamobi General Hospital or Bella General Hospital. If that is the case, why would they refer that referral, which they know can be treated at a polyclinic, to Korle Bu?
So let me answer that. In the referral system, most people, because we are, hard pressed for staff, you would agree with me that in certain facilities you would not necessarily have doctors there. You would have other health workers. And so if a case comes to them, even though it is not an emergency that could not be attended in their hospital, because they lack the requisite expertise to help, they would then refer to Korle Bu,
where they can get
where they think
so
they
which
can
means
get the
that
help,
it
which
is
should
done,
not necessarily be Korle Bu.
Okay, which means that this referral to Korle Bu, that the Korle Bu is suggesting that it is not necessary because it can be treated anywhere.
Elsewhere.
It is done as a result of a problem.
It is.
Then if there is a problem, if you if Korle Bu brings out a statement suggesting that we're refusing referrals, and I think that they are not being fair to the very people they are serving. Look, like you said, a doctor has a patient to refer. Then he realizes that if I refer him or her to Mamobi General Hospital, there's no doctor there to take care of that person. The doctor knows that that emergency should not be treated at Korle Bu, but because there's no official, there's no expertise at Mamobi, I'm sending you to Korle Bu so that you can get an official. For me, I mean, a layman, I'm thinking that to treat a patient referred to Korle Bu in a plastic chair is better than to take a patient to Mamobi where there's no expertise for him or her to go and lie down there.
Agree.
Okay. So for me, the worry is what Korle Bu is doing to patients there. We agree there's pressure on your facilities, but to suggest that you refuse referrals because they are not what you think should be referred to Korle Bu. I am thinking that Korle Bu should rather coordinate with other facilities so that these persons are not referred to Korle Bu, because I was thinking that these are people who in their homes, and then suddenly they get sick and they are rushed there. Right. But these are referrals from health facilities. The doctor should know that this one can be treated and find a place. When the no bed syndrome came, I think one key reason some suggested we can deal with it was that let us find a system where I can call and say, La, do you have bed? Mamobi, do you have a bed? Mamprobi, do you have a bed? In the same vein, I think that if you put a system in where a doctor sitting at, let's say, a Chimota hospital knows that a Beka clinic or facility has an expertise there, so let me refer this minor emergency there. I think that it works.
I agree.
But for Korle Bu to come out with this statement,
right, in fairness to Korle Bu, because I've been there and I can understand what they'll be going through.
Yes, we know.
You know, the referral system you're talking about exists where people are supposed to get onto. There's a platform, a national platform, where you could communicate with doctors in, say, facility A to ask if they have beds for a particular case you're demanding. That is there. However, the truth is, again, you'd have, you know, when we go to hospitals, people have even alleged when there was no bed syndrome that you go and you can see a bed available, but they'll tell you there's no bed. And so that confusion is there. Until you go there yourself and see, it's always, is that possibility that they were not telling the truth? That's what our health system has also been compromised with. People not being upfront with whether they have availability or not because of the workload, because they're understaffed. We've had issues where people actually put on a platform that I need a bed in, say, place A because of a case I have. By the time your patient actually arrives there, that bed has been taken by another person who used other means, and so it makes the referral system not, you know, credible enough to use or to depend on. Until we make that system right, we'll still be having this challenge of Korle Bu asking people who they don't think are emergencies having to be asked to go back, and then Korle Bu looking bad, whereas maybe their sister facilities that actually have beds and could have the expertise will not take these cases. And so it's a system that has to be put in place and ensure that it works. Up until then, we'll keep having these stories, unfortunately, making headlines.
Then the time story of the woman who died with her unborn baby. Again, the health system comes into question. There's denial of any doctor motivation fee. Is it? Okay, it's a fee. Doctor motivation fee. We're told 500 cedis. And so once the man didn't have, all other people who came there were attended to until perhaps the woman passed on. But you see, this issue about our health facilities, and is there any excuse why someone in pain should not be attended to? Is there any at all?
There should
Whether
not.
it is money or no bed or no chair or no doctor at all. Even if there is no doctor, there are other paramedicals around. Is there any excuse at all?
Right, there isn't. I wouldn't want to even justify any situation as that.
Can we take this story and say that where the people who there have done the right thing?
Until the full-scale investigation of the story is, brought out, I would be slow to speak on this matter. Not because I agree with what happened at the hospital, because in this day and age where we're fighting so hard to curb maternal mortality, no pregnant woman should die with her unborn child. This is unfortunate. It really should not happen. However, in recounting the story, I do hear that the woman was giving some medication. And so I'd want to believe that at that point she was hypertensive, because the way they described the mode in which the medication was given, that it was put under her tongue, usually would go for a particular drug which is used to, reduce the blood pressure when it is high. And so I would want to believe that in doing that, they were trying to buy time to manage the hypertension. Otherwise, until everything comes out of the proceedings, how exactly it went, if it was really for a doctor's motivation fee, as is stated in the newspapers, it is shameful, to say the least, and very, very disrespectful to a human being, carrying another human being who would come and add to society, be impactful. It shouldn't happen. I can't give any excuse for this. It is unfortunate.
I'm reading the last paragraph of the story, and it sounds very, very absurd. Look, we are told by the last paragraph that management of the hospital said it had referred the matter to the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate for redress. So the health directorate will wake the woman up.
I don't know, right? But let's go on to Western Regional rant. Of course, this issue, we can't say enough about it, but the no-bed syndrome is still there, is still real in the face of the fact that Kolebu is still refusing referrals. Let's see what you have to say as you rant with Eric this morning.
Once again, we've been reminded of how poor our healthcare delivery system is in the country. Pictures of patients lying anguishedly on hospital floors have angered Ghanaians. But must we always get to that stage before we vent our spleen on the authorities for the right things to be done? This morning on Daily Rant with me, Eric Yeoje, we want to find out exactly what is it that as Ghanaians we are not able to put together. Must we always get to that height before we get angry? Oyende na obiako hospital ma what's the bed in you and also the what's a dream you and also the simply ni bikono on to the desired health care. It appears that gradually we are becoming a country of just talk.
Well, a country of talk there, and no cry. And Ghana and your country, just a nipa a fan who did, and I said, ye day a fan who pay. Because you see, until say government ever taxi the Ministry of Health better taxi Ghana Health Service. Now, after Yama institutions KPIs, ya grade you based on their performance. You know, in the private sector, what is happening is that so baby there are benchmarks and KPIs we are supposed to meet. If you don't generate enough revenue, you will not be able to pay yourself. But what is happening is that most of the government sector, what are the targets? Any KPIs here, they are my doctor. Doctor Najuma no apart from say all share in more quality health care no, have we also told him say his services is there to attract in more revenue or to make money for government, and for that matter government will be able to get money to buy in new equipment. Most of these doctors or health professionals are more various government hospitals and only big facilities. If one doctor is able to work for himself to the extent that he's able to build a facility that will be able to accommodate about 200 people.
Own ambulances
and the rest. How much more government, which has all the resources?
Me feel there it's quite unfortunate that even as a country we are facing this kind of issues with beds in our hospital and mismanagement and all those things. I think that Ghana we have plans, we have ideas, but how to put these ideas in place is the problem. Our structures are weak. How can a hospital, a big hospital as such, lack nothing but a bed? So where do we put the sick people? So that at that very moment when there was no bed, who was supposed to see to it that there is something like that in place? It's quite unfortunate.
But about KPIs and all that. Yes, if you are giving me KPIs, obviously you need to give me inyama. It will help me achieve KPIs. If say bed in you are, it is as simple as that. Bed in you. Do you expect the doctor to provide bed?
You see, it goes beyond bed in your home. The attitude of most of the health professionals, is very, very bad. There are a lot of doctors and nurses, especially the nurses. Ubakono or ya WhatsApp, Ubakono or Dinkomo. And I think that Ajuma and your mom has saying, and she nipano of Lisa, Ajuma no intimamin choir nurse. Inti that passion to cater for people is not there. And you be behind this guy. At least government has been able to build a facility and all those things. What are you also supposed to do?
Now Ghana any health system wabe I'm going there because of the allowance. You get it. So there's no passion in the work. I remember quite well last week. I can't mention the hospital, unfortunately. That was the day Nigeria and one of the teams was playing the football. Could you imagine there? Why the doctor was watching the football, and was so much engrossed in it that it was so terrible. Ekofena, he's not coming. Ekofena is not coming. So such a person, people go to the hospital. This issue that came with Papa No, I felt the man wouldn't have died if at least Odu Hospital Honimpono just give him into a hospital. There's no bench. You see, we try to put certain things in place when we don't have the main thing. Into Papano could have gotten a first aid or something.
But this a stopgap measure, or make do with Meo. I don't know because I remember there's a fear to the hospitals that Obama maintain Obiala away.
Yeah.
But bed the new one is maintain away. Obviously, Obada ifum mana.
Is that not better?
That is better.
No, is that not better if you don't have it at that moment than allowing the person to go out to die?
No, but don't you think that government must do the needful? Because I mean, come to think of it, that we don't have bed in hospitals.
But if we don't have bed and the person is in critical condition, Nipane backseat to Honomo. But me, I manifest it to stabilize the person. That's the work of a health professional who stabilizing the real. Then you can tell the person, say, oh, you need bed with her, and now that you are in a stable condition, let's move you to a different place. It's common sense.
As Ghanaians, are we angry enough in ensuring that Nyama already aban oil? Why?
No. You see, government Nankasa war an attitude to say he's providing service not in terms of quality but in terms of quantity. And until that mentality is erased, we'll continue to have some of these things. You see, facility managers should own the facility and manage it in such a way, say, a Miami facility. And that's what Dr. Frimpong Boateng was doing at Professor Frimpong Boateng was doing at Kolebu. You see, until say government bet taxes, I and Kofuebi, I can say, okay, look, it's a government facility. We are giving you these resources. Make money, pay yourself, and pay tax to government. Some of these things will continue to be there.
Okay. As Ghanaians, have we been angry enough?
Well, I think we really are not so much. Yes, of course. It's a Ghanaian attitude. We just say it and then we leave it. So we give the government the chance to do whatever he pleases, or it pleases, because regardless of everything, we still need to hold them responsible. You are in charge of the whole country. How you run the country and everything is in your hands. Now, if our hospitals lack beds, it is something that we need to worry about. It is something that the government actually need to worry about. I was thinking about something some time ago there. The way a GFA issue in the bed now, you see how the government is so much engrossed in it. I think that is how our health system should be.
It looks like Ghana and MBBR, why a panic, why a knee-jerk, why a reactionary, why the BBC and Sanam, why the Osada, and that is the problem.
Which is unfortunate. Them, because what the minister what the one all those people that they put in place to make sure that we have these things, are they not accounting to the government if these things are not there?
Will you be surprised that Echina next week will still be talking about this issue? As somebody put it, this one too shall pass.
Of course, I be Ghana 70 bar. They are kind of come. After a week or two, now a cut down. You see, Obi Bayer politics and or the land cruiser. Where is the person getting the land cruiser from? I think there is a lot of motivation for people to go into politics than any other profession or institution in Ghana. As a government, or checking some of these things. And yes, idea a bedu maybe no. I also Obi Owoska and with me access healthcare. Meanwhile, so I say you be beer. But looking
at the way in Yamaluku, I'm sure that you'll get to a point that it will scare crown poor equa bed in you, a dream you.
But it's not hospital Ghana. Hospital. But Kameya say no government official, including myself, should travel outside and seek medical care. And let's see.
It's a situation that's hopeless. The most of
you see, I'll start with attitude. We need to change our attitude. We need to, because this thing will come, we'll talk about it again, and it will keep happening. And I think all day and leaders nankasa so maybe they shouldn't wait for the public to rant about it, or they shouldn't wait for people to tell them. Maybe you need to use and then do it. Because you the people in government, say UBB yara, or government hospital, or private hospital. Why? Because there's a problem there. So why don't you fix that problem? So isn't there anybody who is checking whether there's a bed or not? How are they making sure that they push the government into doing it? So I think we all have to. And then if individual bodies can come into helping this.
But if government finds it convenient to buy land cruisers and all that, I mean individual and private,
how do you define a government? Who is a government? It includes all of us. Do you get it? It includes all of us. So if me as an individual, I can just buy a single bed for one hospital, and another person, and my brother can also do
if you look at what government appointees are doing, it doesn't motivate the private person to say that, okay, after all, I pay my taxes, and if you find it convenient to buy land cruisers and cruise in them, then I'll use my money as I please.
But corporate bodies also have a responsibility to play. I mean, if a company like Talo in Ghana is operating, when we say your health sector is weak, they have money to cater for health. I mean, why not? They can purchase about 200 beds. How much is a bed? Because I mean, government should also be looking.
There should be a change of attitude to motivate the likes of Talo and the big other people to also see the need to help.
They've been doing it, but government nankasana say lead the way nankasana then oh yeah.
That's the point.
No.
Okay. So this has been your morning rant with me, Eric J. You can also go onto our various social media platforms and post your comments there. Thank you so much for spending your morning with me in Takrady.
Right, and daily guide new regions not for vote, the president in the Voto region giving that assurance. We're expecting the German lady here, Angela Merkel, is expected in Ghana. It's also on the daily guide. The finder, MDAs in 2017 squandered 892 million Ghana cedis. That's Mr. Domlevo talking there. So the finance ministry topped the squandering list, 697. Employment ministry, 135. Gender, 25. Health, 21. And you can also talk about other institutions, the Ghana Revenue Authority, all of them involved in that. The Daily Graphic, Kolebu refuses referrals. Decision affects surgical emergency cases. And another health story on the Daily Graphic worth talking about. Mahama administration rejected imported ambulances. The health ministry is talking there. And on the Ghanaian Times this morning, there's a teaching hospital for the Voto region. The bill has been approved by cabinet, and woman and born baby die over doctor's motivation fee. The health sector is in the news this morning. Over 70% of those who are on the National Health Insurance Scheme don't pay premiums. That's the story. A report put together by the University of Ghana Business School. Don't forget, those under over 70 and then those below 18 do not pay premiums. Those are some of the issues this morning. My guest to do the talking, the Member of Parliament for the Lejokuku constituency, he's a member of the NPP, Honorable Dr. Bernardo Kuboy is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
Oh, by His grace.
Thanks for your time. I also have the Member of Parliament for the Damongo constituency. He's a member of the NDC, Honorable Adam Mutawakilu. Good morning too.
Good morning.
Grateful for your time with me. Let's start with the Finder this morning. There's a story on page 8 of the Finder. Talks about have no interest in disenfranchising Voltarians. That's the president talking there. If you take a look at page 8 of the Finder, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has stated that he has no interest in disenfranchising the people of the Volta region as being bandied about by his political opponents. He said claims by some leaders and legislators of the NDC that the purpose of the national ID was to disenfranchise some Ghanaians, particularly those from the Volta region, were untrue. I have no interest, that's the president, in doing that. The card is meant for Ghanaians, and that is why Parliament, with the full support of both sides, the minority and majority, supported the new law that is being applied by the NIA. So it is unfortunate that some people are approving and disapproving their own works. That's the president talking there. Now, if you take a look at the same newspaper, page 4, it has the minority in Parliament alleging a deliberate plot by government to prevent the people of the Volta region from taking part in the Ghana card. The minority premised its allegation on what it calls strange transfers taking place at the Volta Regional Births and Deaths Registry, leading to the transfer of the regional head and his deputy to Accra. These transfers are virtually making the registry non-functional. The minority noted that at a news conference addressed by the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okucheto Ablakwa, who had first made the allegation that the refusal to accept voter cards as a form of ID for the national ID card was an attempt to disenfranchise people from the voter. And now, his concerns come as President Akufo-Addo is engaged in a tour of the region. And so that's the story. The minority suggesting that their checks have revealed that these strange and unfair transfers are being carried out only in the Volta region. In other words, it is not a national exercise. Clearly, this is a scheme ostensibly to purge the system and pave the way for the strategy to manipulate the process. That's the statement from the minority. Right. Honorable Mutawakilu, let's tie that into the president's assertion that the creation of the regions isn't in any way to disenfranchise anybody. The minority thinks otherwise, and it says the transfers of these persons are the basis for their argument. Why is it so?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished viewers, and more especially the good people of Damongo constituency. We all are in this country over the years, and we have been witnessing how the votes, and the president made it that even those who don't vote for him in Volta region, indirectly saying that Volta people don't vote for him because he's not won that region before. And we all are aware the allegations in respect to Volta region. We all remember our vice president held a press conference with PowerPoint telling the whole world that about 76,000 people from the Volta region are from Togo, because their names can be using facial recognition. They are voters as well as in Togo, and that he will come with better and further and better particulars, and has since not come out with any details. It points to a certain direction that the NPP government has some different mind about the Volta region. It means that they have a mind that Voltarians don't vote for them, whatever they will do to pursue a case to ensure that a number of them are not able to vote becomes very important, following all these allegations. Now, the NIA brought a bill to Parliament that has gone through the process and approved. And no law is static. You can pass a law today. the next day, issues happen that you have not had you have not foreseen during that, and that is why the law requires the executive to bring it back for amendment. The Mineral and Mining Act, when it was passed, in the course of using it, we realized that it was not punitive enough in respect to galamseys. It was brought back and amended. The Petroleum Revenue Management Act, we realized that the formula for determining the benchmark price was not realistic in current events, as it was envisaged some time ago. It was brought back to Parliament and amended. So if this act has come, bill came, passed and approved, and the general public, including President Kufuor, President Rollins, very prominent individuals within the country, civil society organizations, calling that the issue of voter ID is very critical and should be considered. Nothing prevented the president amending and bring it to Parliament and let it pass. Nothing. And I can set a clear example. When we amended the law, before this, immediately after the swearing-in of the president, with respect to the district chief executive, they are firing. You know, it was made said that they could spend their 4 years, after which that was brought by the Minister for Local Government. An agent one passed, and the next day they were fired. So it depends on the interest that this government, agenda that this government has. If they see that there's no problem with the voter ID that we used to elect President Nana Akufo-Addo, of which he accepted and believed that it was legitimate, I don't see the reason why including it should be a problem, and we make it as if once it has been passed by Parliament, that is the end of it. No, we have amendments, we can amend. Now, down to today, now the NHA board was in Parliament, and in answering some of the questions, and even during the presentations, he brought an indication that possibly this Ghana card will be used as a basis, or the database could be used for future elections. Because even though the Constitution specifies clearly that it is the Electoral Commission that prepares the voter register and all that, it sends a signal that, okay, if this is what you are putting forward, and you are saying that voter ID card, which for now almost 50 million Ghanaians have, so that means it has a wider, using it many people will be able to register. But with the limited one like birth cert and passport, only 7 million people have passports, and all those who have passport, 2 million people have passports. All those who have passport automatically have birth cert, so it is not an addition. Now, you know very well that when
the point I'm making is that this government means well. If they've seen something with the law and they want it amended, they have the right to.
Who has to do it?
Good. Before an amendment comes, it depends on queries and pressure, and you know you have to make a case. Once the case is made, then you have a memorandum that is introduced to Parliament telling us why the amendment is what necessary. This is fantastic. But when you step into the arena of why do you want to disenfranchise over 17 million people, their voter ID cards, which government in its right senses who wants to formalize an economy will cut out 80% of the economy? It does not make any sense. So it is not even
which one is 80%?
No, but the minority claims that when you add the certificate to the passports, the two documents, it amounts to just about 30% of the population. That's about 9 million people. And we are about, I'm coming. But you have said that we are going to disenfranchise those who don't have certificates. They've said it absolutely. In fact, in their press conference, they created the impression that the only two documents that can give you the Ghana card is certificate and passport. But let me just give information.
Okay, you go ahead. I don't want to.
The information is that at the time of the press conference, my brothers are aware. In fact, let me add my sisters. I don't want trouble. My brothers and sisters are aware. Right. If you don't have a certificate, birth certificate, and a passport, this is how you get how do you call a Ghana card. I have a Ghana card. I just take my mother to the station where they are registering. There is a commissioner of oath seated there. Every center will have a commissioner of oath. That's the aggression of this government to make sure Ghanaians get a card. So I walk my mother to the commissioner. My name is Dr. Okoboy. That is my mother. She's Mary Ajete. Age this that. The commissioner, I witness under oath, so that if I'm lying, I know that I can be cited for perjury. Immediately the commissioner gives my mother the form. She goes to the officer and she issues the card. And guess what? My mother can step into the market. If she has 10 friends who are market women, she can witness for all of them. This is how simple and demystified the process is. Okay. And you have an opposition. Let me land with this. Here we are. We have an opposition that says that we are not going to be part of the process. We are not going to register. And yet, they turn around and tell you that there are people who will be unable to access the certificates because officers have been transferred. Why do you want them to access certificates and go for the card when you, the leaders, have boycotted the process? But
okay,
back to the transfer.
The officers transferred because the leaders said they wouldn't vote?
Good, I'm coming there. Okay. And honestly, I'm very sad. We are lowering the argument. Look, I don't want to go into history. I don't want to bore viewers with history. They have been in government before. It is so sad that people who just exited government would even give a hint that when somebody is transferred, it is because of political gains and future elections. Do you want us to go into that? This government is not interested in which officer mans a particular department. It is efficiency we are looking for. And we know that we have serious challenges with not only birth and death registry, which many departments within the agency. There are 2 or 3 things you do to improve efficiency. You give capacity, you do capacity building or training. And the second one, sometimes you have to move those who are efficient to places to help. And have you heard from those who were transferred, they citing unfair treatment? How can you speak for adults? If they go to the court,
are you sincerely honest that civil servants can speak openly like that?
Let me say it. And this
and
is
I'm what you politicians can say.
I'm happy.
You know they can't do it.
No.
Yes.
Look,
so
see, this is public record. Recently, fire service, some ladies who got pregnant were moved, were sacked from the service because they said one of their codes or something says that you shouldn't be pregnant. They went to the courts. I'm not talking about civil aspect. I'm talking about even security service.
Now,
there are many instances. Let me just land. There are many instances of civil servants who have gone to the courts. In fact, usually they go to the human rights court to make sure that their rights are protected. We abide by the law. If anyone feels unfairly treated, we are ready to reinstate, to do what is right. But as we speak, I want to assure them the only commitment we have is to make sure every Ghanaian gets a card. And for Christ's sake, they know, right, in this country, I learned with this statement, all of us accepted that the voter register had issues. Listen, I'm coming. And as a country, we actually took steps, invested money into cleaning the register. You remember Afarijan saying that even after trying to improve upon the register, rather the numbers are increased. How do you start a process which is supposed to make sure that we identify Ghanaians with a register which all of us said had issues?
Is government worried about the perception that transferring these persons at this particular moment, when people could be going for the birth set in order to, in readiness for the national ID card, could trigger public debate that this is an agenda from government? That perception, is government not worried about it?
See, the hazard.
Why now? Why transfer them and make the office not functional now?
If anybody raises issue with functionality of the office, I agree. But I'm not convinced that because of the transfer of the 1 or 2 persons, the whole department has gone to sleep.
Okay, so the office is working. He says the office is not working.
That is their. Listen,
so you know it is working.
You see, my point is that if there is any evidence to suggest that the whole department has gone to sleep.
No, he said it is not working.
But they've said as for him, well, I don't want to impugn on their integrity. But the issue is that sometimes they say things when you go down there, it's not true.
But you do not know whether the office is working or not.
I'm making a very simple point that they've not provided me with any evidence that the office has closed down.
Because the 2 heads have been transferred, the office is
but that does not amount to the collapse of a department because of transfer.
So you are aware it is working?
I don't know why you don't get the point I'm making.
Okay.
I don't want to say for certainty that the office is what.
So you're not sure?
Yeah. You see, let me choose my. Don't give me words. My point is that I am honest enough not to say that the office is working as we speak, but I'm also reminding you that although we are sure of the claim that they've been transferred, we have no evidence that the office has.
You and who?
No, but I didn't provided evidence that the office is closed.
Okay, he told me that the two.
But are you going to say or whatever?
Okay, that's why you are here. All right. He said that because the two officers have been transferred, the office is not working. And I'm asking that. Well, are you also aware that the office is not working?
Let me take a cue from you. Since he said that the office is not working and you are comfortable with it, I will say the office is working, so you take my view.
That's all that I
so you take both.
Yes, we can. But our viewers are those from the voter region.
We must assist your viewers. You see?
No. I'm not to assist my viewers. My viewers have their own decisions to make.
Oh no, but
I am no. Honorable Kuboy. My point is that. I am not to assist my viewers. They are very discerning.
Okay.
They know. Those who in voter region know whether what you are saying is true or not. And in our news bulletins, we'll get that information.
Yeah. So let me make this point right. Right. The point is that as we speak, what is certain is that there's been transfers. What is not absolute is that the departments has closed. That is not absolute.
Okay. All right. I'm grateful.
Let me just.
Okay. Quickly, because I want to take a break and then come back.
First and foremost, I want to be clear that Honorable Boa said driver's license. We all know it doesn't necessarily entails to Ghanaians, so we have to be clear with that. So if he talk about driver's licenses, that is legitimate. Two, why is it that you are finding it difficult after the Supreme Court had made Electoral Commission when it disqualified National Health Insurance? They said they have to publish the names, open up centers for people to show up, prove their nationality, which was done, and those who couldn't prove was deleted from the register. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court gave directives and the Electoral Commission.
We don't have evidence.
At the end of the, do you have evidence that they didn't delete?
But do you have evidence that they did?
That is what the Supreme Court was certified. Somebody filed. If they hadn't done the right thing, that person would have gone back.
It's not true.
Supreme Court, no. It was properly done. And as at the time went to the 2016 polls, we were sure that all those who were not Ghanaians were deleted. You won the election, you accepted the verdict. That alone, the cry from the public should tell you that.
From the NDC, not the public.
So, former President Kufuor is a NDC.
You misquoted him.
You listening to him. You listening to him.
We should consider
you see, he spoke as if. That is what I said. The perception about them is that Voltarians are NDC.
No, but please.
No.
Please, I didn't.
You make a comment. You made that. He said a black one said they knowing very well. They said they will not do it, and why should he be worried? He's a representative of the people, and being a representative of the people,
you wouldn't do
it's not NDC people.
No, you are a leader. You
I'm an MP. Excuse me. I'm an MP.
You bought out the
if I decide, I won't do it.
You should not tell me.
It doesn't mean that I should call my.
You are a leader.
I have the president.
You lead the constituency. You rep the whole constituency. Aboko represents the whole constituency.
Let me take a quick break here. When I come back, the conversation will continue. Stay with us. We're back in a moment. Okay, welcome back. Grateful for your time. Now, let's wrap up on the issue there. Just a few seconds.
As a representative of the people, I know that with the current law, majority of my people have the ID, voter ID. The decision, these people with the passport could register, but I still back with those with majority who have voter ID and which the government could amend to allow them to. Every president who visits the voter region will get some applause. It didn't start from President Nana Akufo-Addo. Every president that went to Volta region would have done something the people will be happy about. Under NDC, we can point out certain infrastructure. Why the teaching hospital, why is it going there? It's going because there is University of Allied Sciences that has been established by the NDC. And this is a follow-up. It has happened a lot of times. You know, UDS, President Raleigh established it. We had a medical school. Under NDC, we converted the Tamale Regional Hospital to a teaching hospital. So thank God we have established a university, and the follow-up benefits will be to have a teaching hospital. And this government in power now says, oh, as a result of the hospital being there, we are setting up a teaching hospital. It's a plus for NDC, and governance is continuous. They want to do it. Two, we have now a small airport there where flight could land. So this you don't
had
know.
an airstrip many times ago. Airstrip has been voted.
Please.
Or is an airport?
Haven't you commissioned it? Whether airstrip or airport, have you commissioned it? So you realize that there are certain fundamental infrastructures that has to be put in place for certain things to happen. And NDC has done it. So that is why I said that your quotation is good, and every president has gotten it. And I'm giving it a infrastructural foundation that we have put down for the takeoff of developmental issues in Volta region, and you cannot dispute it. Last year, the president said, Eastern Corridor, he spoke in Eve. Look at the state after 5 months after the State of the Nation's address. Nothing is happening. So he's saying you establish this thing is very good. It's very good that the foundation has been laid by NDC, but he should equally look at other health facilities that are struggling, because Kolebu currently, we know, one patient, one chair, and that is not good for Mother Ghana.
Right. First of all, let me make this point very clear. His Excellency the President is aware that he got a lot of votes from, let's say, a region like the Ashanti region than from the Volta region. But he's also conscious of the fact that there is no way, in fact, there was no way you could ever become president without support and love from the Volta region. And he, as a person, even my brothers on the other side, they know him. He makes friends not based on tribal orientation. And we, as a government, knows that it is dangerous for us to use tribe to chase an agenda. So I want to make that point clear. There are people who know that when they start to charge the tribe discussion, they become stronger. They might be stronger on that path, but it leads a nation to a dangerous end. Please, let me learn. We should be careful the way we chase some of these things, because we are all at risk. I was quiet. You see, please, you see.
I will interrupt you if you interrupt me.
Right. I've always stated and quoted, may his soul rest in peace, former Professor Atamios. When he was in opposition, he said something. He said he was worried about the nature of the register in Ashanti, looking at the number of adults stated by Statistical Service and those in the room. And I always said that when he said that, he was not being a tribalistic person or someone who was anti-Ashanti region. He was only being a meticulous opposition leader, making sure that figures were right. Now, and so, please, you see, I was quiet when you talked. The point is this: as a government, we are committed to making sure that all state departments are efficient. Even when you appointed an electoral commissioner, we went into an election holding the team that the battle was the Lord's. If we were in opposition and could come to power with somebody you appointed, what makes you think that we will go into an engineering that will make the federal soft for us? He mentioned infrastructural basis. My brother Kolebu, he said one patient, one chair. It's true, there's a form of a huge challenge, or even let me use the word crisis. But anytime you have been in a position for a period of more than 7 years, and somebody takes over from you, and the fellow is struggling to put such things in place, that infrastructural foundation you mentioned is a very questionable one. We are not going to go into the history to talk about what others did and couldn't do. I came with this. I don't know. That is the reason why I brought it. Joined the memorandum to Parliament by the Honourable Minister for Health and Minister for Finance for completion of Phase 2 of University of Ghana Medical Center. And for the sake of our viewers, I am fortunate or privileged.
You are bringing that issue.
I'm coming. Yes. I'm coming. Please.
So you want us to discuss that?
Why not? It's very important. See, I intentionally brought this for the sake of our viewers. Cost breakdown. This is coming from the Ministry of Finance and Health. for completion of both phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, no, the one day.
So phase 1.
I'll give it to you. Read it. I'll give it to you. Read it to phase 2. I have two documents. I'm coming, please. Listen, this is the total. The loan that is coming to Parliament, 40.5 million euros. And guess, I'm giving the cost breakdown. Construction cost, 10.75 million euros. Medical equipment and furniture, equipment to complete phase 1, 2.9 million euros. IT software, etc., 427,000 euros. Consumables, 3.4. And I like this. Outstanding payments, not the one we are about to do, outstanding. The contractor has certificates that have not been honored. And guess what? 9.2. You talked about foundation. It's excellent. There are debts you left for which the contractor is asking for money. And I've stated that there are things to be done in phase 1. What I admit is that maybe we've not acted expeditiously. You see, I want us to discuss this frankly as a government.
So your document is suggesting that because of the debt that phase 1 is still standing.
Oh, but I've mentioned beyond that. I've mentioned things to be done in phase 1.
So the minister
equipment. So
the minister didn't tell us the truth.
Oh, not that he didn't tell us
where
the truth.
he started from generator to MRI machines.
I have said it. I even told the minister in a conversation that your ministry should have given the public more information.
Okay.
Information is important so that people identify the challenge you are having. Okay. And I'm happy that now the transaction has come before Parliament.
So the real problem is because there was a debt.
Oh, no. But no. I know the media. No. I mentioned equipment to complete phase 1. That one you're not interested. No. It's the outstanding.
But you said the
real problem is accumulation of all this. Okay. But the good news is that the shaky infrastructure foundation they had is going to be strengthened and then continue.
Right. I just want, you see, if I don't bite,
give me your document.
Give me your document. I want to print. The memorandum is phase 2. Read the top.
But don't you want this? You don't want this. Don't you want this? But read this first.
Why are you hiding it? It is very important to know. The structure the government has is phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes.
So it should have rolled out, not to stop.
We've not stopped.
For a given period of over 1.5 years.
We've not stopped.
It was planned such that by the time they finish the phase 1, the phase 2 takes over.
That's why all
let's
move on.
That is why it is
okay. Let me move on to the Daily Graphic.
Open it to work.
Okay. So this is a story in the Daily Graphic. Mama rejected imported ambulances. Now the health minister, Mr. Kwekwe says 30 ambulances imported in the country were rejected by the Mahama administration. Now, a former health minister, immediate health minister, Mr. Segbefia, has disagreed, arguing that the Akufo-Addo administration was only or simply refusing to clear accessories at the Tema port to have them fixed in the ambulances so that they could make them fit for purposes. So this is the story. We are told that the ambulances came without certain accessories. The former health minister says that these accessories have arrived at the Tema port, and this ministry is simply refusing to clear them. I don't know how this is. How can this be?
Yeah, thank you very much. The health sector plays a very critical role in the development of any nation, because health is wealth. Without health, it becomes very challenging, and as a result, it needs agent, precise, and decisions to be able to ensure that challenges that we go through are quickly resolved, and that leads to the agenda to ensure that we have so many health facilities to make it accessible. Apart from being accessible, emergency is very critical, so that a second, 30 seconds could cost life when not giving the necessary agency that it needs. And therefore, the supply of these ambulances by government was in the right direction. That is the previous government, to ensure that we augment the little ambulances that we have currently. We have about 55. Now, the previous government left, then another government has come, knowing very well that We have 55 ambulances to serve 30 million people, and ambulances are seated. I thought, assuming these accessories were not there, assuming, I'm just putting that to one side.
Okay.
And the government knows that we have 55. These ones are seated, and there are ways by which we can do to make them work. That should be the priority of the government. That we have ambulances seated. We have 55 ambulances serving 30 million people. The first decision is that how can we put this thing into good use? Now, it has come clear that we have the accessories at the ports. But the government refused to clear it to fit them into the ambulances to work. This is a financial loss to the state. We must be we must be a serious country, not this type of a country. It's serious.
Dr. Koboy, this is a minister and then the former minister in Tango. One said the accessories are at the Tema port. The other said they are not there.
Right.
You know, do you know if
you know
the
what?
accessories are there or not?
You see, it's so sad, and sometimes I think that, or I believe that the Ministry of Health, when it comes to these ambulances, they've been too charitable and too lethargic when it comes to opening up the issues, letting the people involved, be processed so that they'll be prosecuted.
They're not telling us the truth?
No, I said lethargic. Lethargic means that you are slow. Let me tell you something. Mutawakilu is a brother. A lot of funny things happened when it came to this ambulances issue. In any case, let me tell your viewers, it is the ambulance service, the head of the ambulance service, Professor Zakaria and his team, who assessed these buses and said, these are not ambulances, they are buses. You know, it's not an oven that makes an ambulance, it's what is what inside. So it is not the government who declared them fit for purpose.
That is agreed, but then the issue is that the accessories were caught and the court as were broken according to the Daily Graph.
Let me come to that. In the first place, before we even move to that issue, any person who was vigilant and wanted to serve this nation and not having any motive to abuse or mismanage our funds, there is no place in Europe or America where if they are giving you an ambulance, they give you an empty bus and tell you accessories will follow. It is so pathetic. And I'm coming. And that's why I have serious issues. Why the ministry has been so quiet on this issue. As I speak, 275 ambulances would arrive in this nation before the end of this year. None of them is coming in parts, bits and pieces. You go to the factory where they provide the bus, and then it is given to the contractor who fits the equipment, so that when you get the ambulance, you can go and use it.
Okay, so how do we do this? As we wait for Suite 75, how do we deal with this? We are told the accessories are at the ports.
Let me say this. One, if the accessories are at the ports, like you said, I'll urge the ministry.
Daily Graphic is suggesting that Mr. Segbefia told.
No problem. No problem. If the accessories are at the ports, I'll urge my government and the ministry to, as soon as possible, expedite the process, bring them to use, and then ask the ambulance service. You know, we the government don't certify that it's fit for use.
Right.
Ask the ambulance service to assess whether the accessories can make the ambulances usable. If they are usable, we should operationalize them. Okay. But beyond the operationalization, we should make sure that we deal with those who put that in such a situation, so that we deter others from
the point is that the government is not serious.
You buy ambulance and buses as ambulance, you not go into it.
Serious as should be.
If you are serious, why do you do
the accessories are there?
Why do you bring buses?
You know the accessories are there.
Why did you
the ambulances are there?
Complete?
You won't do it. You want to wait until the end of the year for many people to buy before. That is why I made that statement that any government that is serious having this and know that the accessories
you take this for your Wednesday morning. You remember Parliament for the Legislative constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Dr. Bernard Okobo, and also Adam Mutawakilu, MP for Damongo, and member of the NPC. Sit right here. We have sports up next.
In recent times, the nation has been plagued with many corruption allegations, and we have been speaking in an exclusive interview to the Commissioner of Shraj, Joseph Whittal, to find out his ideas on conflict of interest and corruption. Let's see. This is airing across all platforms and also on radio currently on Sunrise, which is our 3FM. So tune in and listen now. Let's watch this.
This morning we've been joined by the Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and we're talking about conflict of interest and corruption. We want to understand under which circumstances can conflict of interest be said to be leading to corruption, as well as having a better understanding of corruption and conflict of interest. My guest is the Commissioner himself, Joseph Whittal. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great. So tell us, what's conflict of interest?
Well, conflict of interest as defined in the Constitution is whenever a public officer puts himself in a situation where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the discharge of his official functions.
What are those particular situations that you expect to guide, public officials when it comes to conflict of interest?
Actually, we've identified financial interests of public officials. We've identified situations of self-dealing when they have to deal with themselves in terms of their private businesses, and their public duties. We have also a recurrent situation which can lead to conflict is that of employment situation, recruitment, and official time use and abuse of office. Those are interests, say, in a family relation. Your spouse, your daughter, your old boy from the university or the secondary school that you have met. You want that person to work with you. There's a tendency to allow your personal interest in that person to override the procedure that are laid down to ensure that the person who gets picked is picked on the basis of meritocracy.
If the president makes an appointment, or if the minister makes an appointment, for instance, and in that appointment he appoints the brother or sister, or say the classmate, how do you find out whether that person is qualified or not, so you'll be able to tell us, for instance, there's conflict of interest?
Now let's distinguish between presidential or executive appointments. The president has power to appoint certain people whom he will come with and whom he will go back when his time of office is over, he will live with. Those appointments are at his discretion.
So the president cannot be said to have engaged in conflict of interest if he appoints his son?
Well, but since you are the leader of the public service, you would want to send the right signal. If your son is qualified, no problem. But if he's not qualified and you have picked him because the rules allow you to pick people that you come with, to work with, and to leave, then the public will start to talk.
You have a challenge with what we practice now?
Not only me, but I think most Ghanaians have.
You have a challenge with it?
That we should begin to pick people on the basis of criteria that is merit-based. And so I also do.
The last time I spoke with you, you talked about how the laws have made Shraj technically ineffective in certain situations. Because there are issues you would like to investigate, but the law doesn't permit you to investigate those issues.
If there's no complaint, we cannot investigate.
Exactly, when it comes to issues of conflict of interest. Yeah. Is this one of the cases that the law prevents you from investigating, which you would have loved to investigate, for instance?
The law did not prevent us from our understanding of what the law was until somewhere in 2006, when the Supreme Court pronounced in the Anani case that allegations that are to be made to the commissioner in respect of conflict of interest should be seen as complaints and not allegations that will be treated as being in the media and the commissioner happens to read and decides to take them up. That is where the whole issue of our mandate to investigate without a complaint allegations of conflict of interest came to a screeching halt. Yeah.
Yes, but for that Supreme Court ruling, which is currently preventing you, would you have, investigated this issue, for instance?
Straight away.
You'd have investigated it?
Straight away. And indeed, the Constitutional Review Commission has actually indicated that that barrier that has been placed on charge should be removed in the next amendment of the Constitution. And we are all for it.
So when you read the newspapers, just finally on this bit, when you read the newspapers and you see some of these issues, you listen to the radio, you watch the television, and you see some of these things, are you sometimes saddened that you'd have to wait for a complaint before you investigate them?
Especially, I agree with you, especially when you look at our sister commissions in other countries, where they can investigate without a complaint on their own. You ask yourself, why would you set up a commission with such broad mandate and you qualify it, especially when it comes to the fight against corruption, and conflict of interest is a species of corruption? Why would you want to put a filter like unless you have a complaint? I'm looking forward to the next amendment of the Constitution to make sure that that filter is removed.
And if it's not?
Well, we are going to make sure that, and I hope NGOs and other civil society organizations and other public-spirited persons are all interested in making sure that the Commission should be given the latitude to investigate. Why, some of those cases that you have mentioned, people don't want to come out because they would be stigmatized. You are the one who brought this complaint. You are the cause of my problem. So for public interest cases, it is best that you don't require a physical, identifiable individual to come forward. You allow the institution to use its own discretion and go at it.
Okay.
That is how it happens in other countries.
Let me get your thoughts on another issue. So there we have it here. There are lots of the people who think that many of the contracts we have in this country are inflated. Does that amount to the abuse of trust in you?
Clearly, that is abuse of discretionary power. Why would you allow, if you are actually talking about competitiveness in the procurement process, competitiveness is supposed to drive down prices. If you had actually allowed the principle of competitiveness to take place, there is no way inflation of prices would occur. Inflation of prices would occur if you either restrict, you sole source, or you handpick. Because at that time, you are not having the breadth and latitude of prices from other suppliers or to compare and be able to determine that this is a better price.
But under what circumstances can conflict of interest lead to corruption?
Well, if you allow yourself your personal interest in a given matter, patently you know that you have a personal interest, you have gone through all the assessment and evaluations, which indeed our conflict of interest guidelines have got some checklists that you can go through to find out whether this is a situation of a personal conflicting with your public official duty. If you go through that and you know that there is a potential of conflict of interest and you proceed to then still act, then of course you have crossed the realm of conflict of interest into active, palpable corruption.
Do you think if we make asset declaration public, it would go a long way in fighting conflict of interest and corruption?
For me, this booklet, which is actually the Code of Conduct and Guidelines on Conflict of Interest, which we as a commission developed to guide public officials in the management and identification of conflict of interest, we have since been able to convince government to put it into a bill. This bill sets out how guidelines on conflict of interest will now become provisions of a law with sanctions, including assets declaration, how they can be verified, how they should be published, either in the Gazette or in any other form. Because that is how you and I will get to know the assets of public officials, to be able to make meaningful complaints. If I don't know your assets and they are hidden in the Auditor General's office, how would I make a meaningful complaint about whether you are in conflict of interest or whether you are contravened the Constitution by not properly declaring your assets? It's only when they are there. And to be frank with you, this is not news. For Ghana, we have retrogressed. In the PNDC era, I happen to know, because at that time, I was a public official.
Oh, okay.
We declared assets, published in the Gazette. So why can't we? You remember the joke about Kwesi Botwe?
Yeah.
He is supposed to have declared a gramophone.
Yes.
Yes. It is because it was in the Gazette. Why can't we do that? The excuses that our members of parliament and other people are telling us, that if you publish assets, you will bring armed robbers and thieves to your house.
Do you get the impression that MPs are comfortable with declaring assets publicly?
Oh, they made it very clear it's in Hansard. They said it will lead to armed robbery. It would create problems for inheritance for them. Some of them felt that, they inherit matrilineally and it is not proper for their assets to be known. I mean, please, we're in, is it 21st century? I mean, I'm surprised that we're still using such criteria. If we're actually fighting corruption, if good governance is what we are fighting for, you cannot say if my properties are known, my properties which I should be bequeathing to my nephew by custom, it should not be known, otherwise I may be killed earlier. I mean, please, we must make progress.
That's a genuine fear, isn't it? People get to know your things, they would fast track your passing away.
So what? But we've put certain people in official position, and we are also interested in whether you are fast tracking the public assets into your private assets. So you have to weigh the situation. What prevents you from having a number of guards around your house, making sure that you are careful? And how many of us actually have the properties that we claim we are so afraid it will lead to our deaths?
But finally, on the corruption bit, I mean, since you're tasked with investigating corruption cases, you don't need a complaint to. Over the last 2 years, 1.5 years, are there corruption cases going on that Shraj is investigating?
Quite a number. We're investigating corruption cases under Act 456, which is the Commissions Act. We're investigating corruption cases under the Whistleblower Act. We're investigating conflict of interest cases which are tied with corruption, because the conduct has gone beyond conflict of interest, but we are doing the two together. And
there are allegations of corruption in the Kelny GVG case. Are you investigating it?
There's no complaint before charge.
You don't need a complaint when it comes to corruption?
In any case, the matter is before court, and when the matter is before court, we don't go there.
But before it went to court, you didn't start investigations?
What we do, we have a team in our office that looks at all allegations in the media on corruption, on conflict of interest, and they start preparing the dossier for the commissioner's, attention. But when they even prepare the dossier and the matter is going to court, then we have to kill it.
So, was there a dossier preparation in this case?
I don't want to be prejudging the issue. If it crashes out of parliament, of court, we can always take it up. And I can assure you that there is no corruption allegations that are going on in the media where our staff have not prepared because there's a possibility of a preliminary investigation going on at any given time. So they have to prepare and let us know. Before the matter goes before court, even in the case, there are some cases that you, as you sit here, you may not know. We may be investigating some public officials preliminarily without informing them. It is only when we have basis for undertaking a formal investigation, then we request comments and we give documentation.
Finally on this, there's been talk of alleged corruption at Bust, for instance. People have complained about it. I mean, the sale of off-spec fuel and the sale of fuel which was even in the tanks of Tor. Do you have some preliminary investigation? Are you doing some preliminary investigations into this also?
We did a preliminary investigation based on a complaint that came to the commission. This was not only on our own. We started on our own. A complaint came with a stack of documentation. We're in the process when same matter went before court.
Is this a defamation suit that has gone to court?
You'll be surprised to know that the defamation suit is packaged around the same facts that we're supposed to investigate. So it's not the title of the case, but it is whether the fact situation in court requiring a determination is the same as what has been brought before charge.
Mr. Joseph Weta, your closing remarks.
Well, I think the fight against corruption is a worthwhile fight. Some of us are happy with the support that is given by the presidency, but we think that we can do more.
What support is being given by the presidency? Just
political will. Setting up of the office.
You think this government has a political will to fight corruption?
I think we are getting the right vibes. We are getting the right vibes from the presidency. We are getting the offices that otherwise we have been fighting for. The office of the special prosecutor is right on. But what we are not happy with is that 6 months into the existence of that office, we are not happy with how the office has been empowered to undertake its work.
Why aren't you happy? What's the problem?
We think we could have done better. As anti-corruption bodies, we're interested in knowing the new kid on the block, what is happening.
Is it happening? You think the office of the special prosecutor has not been empowered enough to perform its functions?
Well, financially, we are not seeing that.
So it's not been empowered to perform its functions?
We don't think they have a budget. We haven't seen serious personnel being employed. Martin Amidu is doing his own preliminary investigations. We don't think that is the way to go.
What is the way to go then finally?
The way to go is for, how much does that office require?
Tell me.
If you give Martin Amidu a good office that can take minimum 40 investigators and other people who can actually do the work with him, I know he will do the work. I know that man and his commitment is there. But for now, he's sitting there with about 2 or 3 staff. 6 months? No, that's not. He shouldn't go. That office shouldn't go the way ours and others like Yoko have gone through.
How have yours gone?
I mean, we're talking about financial empowerment.
You're not empowered financially.
If you compare anti-corruption bodies between Ghana and Nigeria, I mean, you think we're joking.
That means you're not serious in fighting corruption then?
No, we are not. We are ready.
Yeah, but if you are supposed to be funded by the state and the state is not funding you,
yes,
it means the state is not willing to fight corruption.
That is why we think we should tell the state to do the right thing.
So tell them to do the right thing.
I'm using your medium to tell them that, look, empower us. We've seen some improvement in charge. Building our head office is good. Giving us more personnel is good. We have had 20 staff support this year. That's good, to fill vacancies. But what about the Office of Special Prosecutor? If you compare us with the Economic and Financial Crimes Office Commission in Nigeria, 4,000 staff in that commission, 400 lawyers who are permanently in court, and they are using non-conviction based asset forfeiture as a basis. So you are seeing physical rewards. We are still on the conviction based. How long will it take for Martin to take a case to court to prosecute and to go through the whole process of appeals right up to the Supreme Court? Come on.
We need to get serious.
We need to get serious.
Joseph Whittal, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. We're very grateful.
Thank you.
They're not having access to that mode of contraception, and nearly half of the estimated 56 million abortions carried out worldwide each year are unsafe. It means it's being done in places that are not accredited to do so by persons who are not accredited to do so as well. And 95% of the world's births among adolescent girls occur in developing countries. And of course, Ghana then features very prominently in that because we are still a developing country. And growth of cities, the statistics say the world's population totals 7.6 billion and expected to reach 10 billion by middle of this century. Asia is about 50% an urbanized, while Africa is still predominantly rural. That's about 43% of that. Africa and Asia are home to nearly 90% of the world's rural population. And Tokyo, the world's largest city with 37 million inhabitants, followed by Delhi with 29 million and Shanghai with 26 million people, and gradually Ghana seems to be joining that statistics. But I'm joined in studio by DSP Dr. Faisal Ayamvila. We're going to be talking about family planning. Good morning, Faisal.
Good morning, Amma.
The statistics there are a bit alarming, and yes. I mean that we read for unmet contraception need is really worth talking about. But let's start off with people's myths concerning family planning and what they think is true, but what really the situation is. Then, of course, maybe you want to explain to us what family planning is in total.
Okay. Well, so family planning services largely comprise medical and social activities through which individuals may be able to determine the number of children they want to have and then the spacing they want to have in between the children. And so that's what it really is. Very well.
So for people who would say that, I mean, I'm not using a family planning method because I've seen or I've heard it makes me put on weight. Is that the truth? Do all family planning methods predispose you to gaining weight?
You know, with regards to family planning methods, you'd want to talk about the reversible ones and then the irreversible ones. The reversible ones are either use the hormonal form or use the condoms or the barrier methods. The statement you made is typically with the hormonal, people complain that when they use the hormonal family planning or contraception, they put on some weight. But it's not true in its entirety, first of all, and it's a very misleading statement because it's only 20% of women who may put on some weight when they start hormonal family planning. And this can be offset by exercising and things like that. So it's not entirely true. Most women would not put on weight anyway. And if you do, you could always do some exercise.
Very well. So you mentioned rightly some reversible and irreversible family planning methods. Can you just take us through those?
Okay, so you know it takes two to tango. You have the egg that's released by the female and the sperm released by the male. And then when the two fertilize, there's implantation, there's pregnancy. And so you're looking at methods. Well, the reversible ones are what we usually talk about. The irreversible ones are for people who are absolutely sure they do not want to have kids anymore. There are two main methods. For the men, we have what we call the vasectomy, where we tie the tubes. You know, there's a tube that brings the sperm from the testis and it's released. We tie that tube. And then in women, we have what we call the tubal tying or ligation, where we ligate the fallopian tubes, and so the egg is not transmitted into the womb. So those are permanent for people who are done. The reversible ones, well, what I like to talk about most are the barrier methods, because the barrier method will give you protection from sexually transmitted infections as well. That's the condom, which is very common and it's easy to get, and then what we call the cervical cap, which the diaphragm, which is less common. But then, of course, you can use the hormonal type, and this is where the problem is. The myths always starts that you put on weight and things like that. These tend to be very effective. The myths are out there, and they are not entirely true. So you have the injections. Some people take an injection every 3 months. Right. You can have the pills. You take some tablets every single day to prevent the female from releasing an egg that would lead to pregnancy. And then lately we have the patches as well. So these are reversible. But the irreversible ones are for people who have had, let's say, 4 or 5 children. And they are sure that they are done.
Well, it can even be 2, so far as they've made up their minds that they are done.
Exactly so. And that's why we want to use the broader term, family planning. Right. Because when you talk about contraception, it's just an aspect. Okay. Family planning also has to do with us going out to talk to the teenagers about reproductive health, the need for them to use condoms. Right. And then all these other aspects fall within the broader definition. That's why of late we use family planning.
Great. So let's watch a piece on family planning so that you can understand a bit better what we're talking about. And then we'll come back in studio to discuss it.
The Timing and Spacing of Pregnancy faith-based project is aimed at involving religious leaders in efforts to reduce maternal mortality, primarily in rural areas. The project further seeks to encourage family planning methods for youth in rural areas who tend to get pregnant early. In Ghana, 30% of married women have an unmet need for family planning services, while 17% have an unmet need for spacing and 13% have an unmet need for limiting. Director of Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje, says government is instituting measures to incorporate family planning into the National Health Insurance Scheme.
We are building capacity of community nurses and auxiliary nurses to also offer services across the country in implant and long-term methods to improve access to family planning. There's also the plan to introduce health insurance as part of the benefit package for health insurance, and we are believing that that will improve access to family planning services, especially for those who feel that financial access may be a barrier.
Recent studies have recognized the unique and vital role of the church, mosque and faith-based groups in successful developmental work, especially in developing countries.
Well, and those are the statistics for Ghana concerning family planning. But Dr. Faisal, let me also ask this contraception as well. That's why we have the ascendancy of unsafe abortions.
Amma, is very sad. I've often told this tale of, let's say you being in London, a 16-year-old daughter will be called by the parents and advised on what to do to prevent pregnancies, for example. But that doesn't happen over here. We don't talk to the youth. We don't talk to the kids about what they need to do to prevent pregnancies. Then when they get pregnant, they go to all these facilities that are questionable and offer very quack services. And unsafe abortions kill so many of our ladies. This is also preventable if we look at it beyond the hospital. You want to involve religious leaders, for example, to talk to the children about the fact that they have to abstain, and if that's not possible, they could use the condom, for example, very easily accessible, to prevent the need for us to go through this unsafe abortion practices.
As a doctor, what would you advise your client, who a female of course, who is having issues where she thinks she's done with her family in terms of looking at maybe her health condition, but her husband has not necessarily approved for that family planning method to take place?
This is a daily debate in the hospital where the woman wants to call it a day and then the man still wants to have extra kids. It's all about communication. The right, now it's being touted as a human right to be able to determine how many children you want. And so it's all about communication and counseling. I would do my best to counsel the husband on the need to have a certain number of children, of course, for economic reasons as well, school fees and other things. And sometimes with the counseling, then the men see the need to be able to, the need to side with the women when it comes to issues of contraception.
When we talk about contraception and family planning, we tend to focus on women. But when it comes to the men, concerning the very permanent methods, African men have this idea that once you have, vasectomy, you can't have sexual interactions with your wife, and that prevents them from even accessing. Is this a reality?
Another entirely mythical statement. It's a big myth, because all we do is we stop the transmission of the sperm from the testes through the urethra. So it's more like we are blocking the sperm from coming out. It has nothing to do with your erection. Your erection would be perfect, it would be maintained, you'd perform as well as you did even before the procedure. So it's not true that it would bring down your manpower. It will just keep it at the same level.
Very well. But now also in modern times, you marry and the first thing they're asking is, when are the children coming? But let's say the family has decided to use contraception. Yes. What advice do you have for the relatives, the extraneous people who are giving you the advice and the worry, the pressure? How would you advise them? And also because sometimes people say when they start family planning ahead of attempting to give birth, it takes a longer time. Yes. Is this also true?
Well, Amma, from this discussion, we've seen that there are a lot of myths out there that we need to dispel. The first thing about family planning is to know that the couple have the right to determine when they want to have their first child and when they intend to proceed with activities leading to that. And so they must be given the free will to do so. It's not a human right, actually. And also you'd want to look at the benefits. You talk to the external family members about the fact that maybe this is a couple that would want to attain a certain health or financial level or status before they embark on having children. When you talk about the benefits, you realize that the people begin to side with you.
Asking is, when are the children coming? But let's say the family has decided to use contraception. Yes. What advice do you have for the relatives, the extraneous people who are giving you the advice and the worry, the pressure? How would you advise them? And also because sometimes people say when they start family planning ahead of attempting to give birth, it takes a longer time. Yes. Is this also true?
Well, Amma, from this discussion, we've seen that there are a lot of myths out there that we need to dispel. The first thing about family planning is to know that the couple have the right to determine when they want to have their first child and when they intend to proceed with activities leading to that. And so they must be given the free will to do so. It's not a human right, actually. And also you'd want to look at the benefits. You talk to the external family members about the fact that maybe this is a couple that would want to attain a certain health or financial level or status before they embark on having children. When you talk about the benefits, you realize that the people begin to side with you.
Asking is, when are the children coming? But let's say the family has decided to use contraception. Yes. What advice do you have for the relatives, the extraneous people who are giving you the advice and the worry, the pressure? How would you advise them? And also because sometimes people say when they start family planning ahead of attempting to give birth, it takes a longer time. Yes. Is this also true?
Well, Amma, from this discussion, we've seen that there are a lot of myths out there that we need to dispel. The first thing about family planning is to know that the couple have the right to determine when they want to have their first child and when they intend to proceed with activities leading to that. And so they must be given the free will to do so. It's not a human right, actually. And also you'd want to look at the benefits. You talk to the external family members about the fact that maybe this is a couple that would want to attain a certain health or financial level or status before they embark on having children. When you talk about the benefits,